Imagine this. You're sitting by a fire. Just an ordinary night thousands of years ago. You've got a pile of rocks stacked around the flames. Nothing special, just stones to hold the heat in. And then, something happens that's never happened before. Not once. In the entire history of your species, one of those rocks starts to bleed. Not blood. Something stranger. A thick shining liquid pooling out from inside the stone, catching the firelight like nothing you've ever seen nature produce on its own. You didn't put that there. Nobody did. The rock just opened up, and what came out of it would eventually reshape the entire world. That liquid was copper. And that moment, completely by accident, was the beginning of the Metal Age. Here's the thing, nobody tells you about this discovery. It wasn't a genius moment. Nobody sat around a fire and thought, I bet there's metal inside rocks, let me go check. It was an accident, repeated by accident, thousands of times, in different corners of the world, until someone finally noticed the pattern. The rocks in question are called ores. One of the most common early ones is a bright green mineral called malachite. To you and me, it just looks like a pretty green stone, but chemically it's copper locked away, bonded with oxygen. And it turns out, if you get that stone hot enough, hotter than an open campfire alone usually gets, something remarkable happens. Think of the rock like a locked box. The copper's been inside it the whole time, waiting. Fire isn't creating the metal, fire is the key. It's breaking the chemical bond holding the copper prisoner inside the stone, and it comes pouring out, pure, gleaming, and completely unlike anything else in the natural world. And where did that fire get hot enough by accident? Pottery kilns. Early humans building kilns to harden clay pots were, without knowing it, running one of the first metal smelters on Earth. They were trying to make bowls. They accidentally invented metallurgy. But here's where it gets interesting, because finding liquid metal once is a curiosity. Figuring out you can do it again on purpose and shape what comes out, that's a civilization-changing decision. And that decision came with consequences nobody could have predicted. So now humans have copper. And copper is honestly kind of underwhelming at first. It's soft. You can bend a copper blade with your bare hands. It dulls fast. It's a massive upgrade over stone tools, sure, but it's not going to win any wars. But copper wasn't the only strange rock getting thrown into fires around this time. In certain riverbeds and hillsides, people kept finding these unusually heavy, dark, dull stones. Nothing eye-catching at all. Nothing like copper's dramatic green ore. This was cassiterite, tin ore. And it's easy to imagine why it took so long to matter. It doesn't look like it's hiding anything. No shine, no color, nothing that screams there's metal inside me. It just sits there, heavier than a rock has any right to be. That extra weight is the only clue tin ore ever gives you. And it's the reason ancient tin was often gathered from riverbeds in the first place. Heavy grains and pebbles washed downstream, settling where the water slowed. Collected the same way you'd pan for gold, just duller, less glamorous, and for a long time, nobody knew why they even bothered. Here's where the real accident happens though, and it's an even stranger one than copper's. In several regions, copper ore and tin-bearing minerals occur naturally together, in the same rock formations, which means some early smelters weren't combining two metals on purpose at all. They were smelting what looked like a single ore, and out came something that wasn't quite copper, and wasn't quite anything they'd seen before. Harder, stronger, different color even, a warmer golden tone instead of copper's reddish glow. They'd made bronze, completely by accident, without any idea two metals had just fused into one. Only after noticing that pattern, that certain special batches of copper kept coming out stronger, did anyone start deliberately hunting for those heavy, dull, unglamorous river stones on purpose, and mixing them in on purpose. What started as an unexplainable inconsistency in their smelting became one of the most important intentional experiments in early human history. And the result was something nobody was prepared for. Bronze. Harder than copper, sharper, holds an edge, doesn't bend under pressure the same way. It was, for its time, basically a superpower. A material advantage so significant that entire empires would rise or fall based on who had reliable access to tin and copper deposits. Think about that for a second. Somewhere, a group of early metalworkers is essentially running chemistry experiments with molten rock, with zero understanding of atoms, alloys, or metallurgy as a science, purely through trial, error, and pattern recognition passed down generation to generation. And the stakes of getting it right? Entire civilizations. Bronze changed farming, stronger plows, more efficient tools. It changed warfare, better weapons, better armor. It changed trade because pure tin deposits and pure copper deposits are rarely found near each other. So once people understood what they were actually looking for, distant regions of the world that had never interacted before were suddenly connected by trade routes, chasing the ingredients for this one incredible alloy. But bronze, as revolutionary as it was, had a ceiling. And humans were about to hit something that would take them thousands of years longer to crack. Something that when they first encountered it, they didn't even believe came from the ground at all. Here's a fact that sounds made up, but isn't. The very first iron tools and weapons humans ever made weren't mined. They fell from the sky. Before anyone figured out how to smelt iron from ore, which, as we'll get to, is brutally difficult, the only iron available to ancient humans came from meteorites. Rocks that fell from space made of solid metal, occasionally landing somewhere a human could find them. The ancient Egyptians even had a name for it that translates to metal from heaven. Archaeologists have found iron beads, thousands of years old, forged from meteoric iron, worn as jewelry so rare and precious it was reserved for royalty. Not because it was pretty, because as far as anyone knew, it was a gift from the gods. But meteorites are rare, painfully rare. You could go your entire life without ever finding one. So how did humans ever connect that to the idea that ordinary ground, ordinary dirt, might be hiding the same metal without needing a rock from space at all? The clue, it turns out, was already lying around in plain sight, in wetlands and bogs all over the world. It's called bog iron, a reddish, rusty orange sediment that naturally forms when iron dissolved in groundwater meets oxygen and air near the surface. Unlike malachite's green or cassiterite's dull heaviness, bog iron doesn't hide at all. It practically announces itself, streaking the mud and water an unmistakable rust color, the exact same color you'd see today on an old forgotten nail left out in the rain. Someone noticed that color. Someone connected it, correctly, to the color of the strange, precious sky metal they already treasured. And someone was curious enough to scoop up that rust-colored mud and throw it in a fire, just to see. That's when they ran into the real problem. Unlike copper, which melts free at temperatures an open fire can reach, iron ore refuses to give up its metal easily. It needs temperatures far beyond what a simple campfire or even an early pottery kiln can produce. You need something called a bloomery furnace, a purpose-built structure using forced air, usually pumped in with bellows, to push the temperature high enough to finally coax iron free from its ore. This took a genuinely staggering amount of trial and error to figure out. We're talking centuries of failed attempts, ruined batches, wasted fuel before someone finally cracked the technique reliably. And once they did, everything changed again. Iron ore, including that same humble bog iron, is far more common and widespread than copper or tin. Suddenly, this incredible material, once literally worth more than gold, because it fell from the heavens, became something almost anyone could access if they had the knowledge and the furnace. That's the moment humanity stopped depending on rare alloys and rare sky metal and started building an age defined by something buried under nearly everyone's feet. But let's be honest about what this actually took. We talk about discovering metal like it was a clean, tidy process. It wasn't. Picture the person actually working that early furnace, standing over open flame for hours, pumping bellows by hand, feeling heat radiating hard enough to blister skin at close range, breathing in smoke and fumes with no idea those fumes might be doing long-term damage, no safety equipment, no temperature gauge, just instinct, experience, and the burn scars to prove it. Early smiths weren't just craftsmen. They were the closest thing their society had to scientists, running blind experiments on materials they didn't chemically understand, in conditions that could seriously hurt or kill them, purely because the result mattered enough to risk it. Every sword, every plow, every nail that came out of those fires came at a real physical cost that we, flipping a light switch or driving a car today, almost never have to think about. So, how did ancient humans figure out there was metal hidden inside the earth? The honest answer is they didn't figure it out. Not through insight, not through theory. They stumbled into it by accident over and over across thousands of years and countless different fires, and then they were curious enough and stubborn enough to keep chasing that accident until it became a science. That same instinct, throw it in the fire and see what happens, is the same basic curiosity that would, thousands of years later, lead humans to find oil buried in the ground, to split the atom, to build silicon into computer chips. It never really stopped. We just got better tools for the same question: what else is hiding right under our feet, waiting to be found? And speaking of hiding under our feet, metal wasn't the only thing early humans eventually pulled out of the earth by accident. There's another one, thick, black, and flammable, that changed the world just as much. That one's coming soon. If this is the kind of question you didn't know you needed answered, you know what to do.